In July 1999, China's President Jiang Zemin began a nationwide crackdown on Falun Gong, a peaceful practice guided by the universal principles of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. This ancient practice for mind, body, and spirit has benefited millions of people in over 50 countries around the world. Threatened by its growing popularity in China, Jiang Zemin is now leading a brutal and unrelenting campaign against Falun Gong. To avoid condemnation from the world, Jiang has been using every means within his power to carry out this persecution. The most highly publicized example of Jiang Zemin's strategy is the self-immolation that took place in Tiananmen Square on January 23, 2001. 5 people set themselves on fire. Jiang's regime used this horrific event to turn popular opinion against Falun Gong. What is the real truth behind this tragedy? According to China's state-run news agency Xinhua, at 2:41 p.m. on January 23rd, on the northeast side of the People's Hero Monument, a man named Wang Jindong set himself on fire. 4 policemen immediately surrounded the man with several fire extinguishers. In less than 1 minute, the fire was put out. A few minutes later, on the north side of the People's Hero Monument, 4 women also set themselves on fire. A minute and a half later, the police had put out those fires. The entire scene played out in less than 7 minutes. Somehow, the Xinhua news agency broadcast its report of this incident to the whole world within 2 hours of the time of occurrence. Normally, every report from Xinhua must be approved by all levels of government before it can be broadcast to the public. However, news of the self-immolations was broadcast in an unusually short time. This strange occurrence surprised the foreign correspondents in Beijing at the time. The Beijing Evening News reported on February 16th that there were 3 or 4 policemen putting out the fire of each self-immolator. Altogether, they had about 25 pieces of firefighting equipment. This story differed significantly from the program broadcast by Chinese Central TV on the day the incident occurred. The CCTV program showed that there were only 2 police cars at the scene. Police officers who patrol the square do not normally carry firefighting equipment with them, and the footage doesn't show any firefighting equipment in Tiananmen Square. In Beijing, the closest building to the People's Hero Monument is at least 10 minutes away. Where did the policemen get the equipment, and how did they get it so quickly? Why would 2 police vehicles be carrying 25 pieces of firefighting equipment to patrol Tiananmen Square? Were they expecting to put out a fire that day? The Xinhua news agency claimed that Ms. Liu Chunling died from self-immolation, but a closer look at the video shows she might have died from a hard blow to the head. If we slow the video down, we can see that while Ms. Liu struggles in the fire, she is struck on the head by something from behind. We see Miss Liu knocked to the ground. We also see the object that hit her bounce off her head into the air. If we pause the tape, we can see someone's arm waving very close to Miss Liu's head. We can also see a man wearing an overcoat, standing at the spot where the object came from. His pose suggests someone who has just used force. We can clearly see that the stick-shaped object bounces off Miss Liu's head on impact. It is not carried along in the flow from the fire extinguisher. Instead, it flies the other way, against the force of the extinguisher. The flying object is bent. We can see how hard the impact is. Miss Liu falls immediately. We can even see that as she falls, she tries to raise her left hand toward her head. The question arises, did Miss Liu willingly set herself on fire? Why would someone want to knock her down? Why didn't that person try to save Miss Liu from burning to death? From the Chinese Central TV program, we can see that the camera follows the policeman to the site where the fire began, and even zooms in and out to catch just the right details of the drama as it unfolds. Normally, the surveillance camera in Tiananmen Square covers a fixed area, but on this particular day, the camera follows the police to the scene and zooms in to focus on the incident. It seems as if this camera was set up specifically to tape the self-immolation. The Chinese media claims that it was CNN journalists who recorded the close-up shots, but the head of the international department of CNN stated that CNN did not film anything because at the very beginning of the incident, CNN reporters were arrested and their equipment confiscated. CNN did not have a chance to shoot any footage. When we look again at the tape from Chinese Central TV, we can see a man carrying a camera bag at the scene. He seems to be shooting the whole incident from close by. Who is he? Why didn't the police stop him the way they stopped the CNN reporters? Why would the government lie about the source of the videotape? Why wouldn't they reveal the source of the close-ups, even if they were taken by a policeman who just happened to be there on that day? The CCTV footage also shows the police officer behind Wang Jindong holding a fire extinguishing blanket. He doesn't use the blanket immediately as one would expect. He is just holding it, and looks as if he is waiting for a signal from the burning man or waiting for the photographer to take a picture. Is it coincidental that this footage was shot within 1 or 2 minutes after the fire broke out, and that it was shot from the best angle? Even more unnatural is the fact that when 12-year-old burn victim Liu Shuying's life is in danger, she is not sent to the hospital right away. We can see that someone takes a close-up shot of her and records her voice before letting the ambulance take her to a hospital. We can only wonder, what are the priorities here? Saving a young child at all possible costs, or collecting evidence for future use? Was this event planned and a 12-year-old girl used as an unwitting victim of a dangerous game? Let's take a closer look at some of the self-immolators who the Chinese government claims are Falun Gong practitioners. First, let's examine the man who set himself on fire. Government officials say he is a Falun Gong practitioner named Wang Jindong, and that he is responsible for coordinating the incident. In the Chinese Central TV film, we see a policeman waiting behind him. Only after Wang Jindong shouts does the policeman cover him with the blanket. A person's respiratory system is usually the first to suffer in a fire due to smoke inhalation and exposure to the hot air. Yet this man's voice seems in good shape. He shouts loudly and clearly. The words Wang shouts in translation are, "This universal Dafa is something that everyone has to get through." Anyone who has read Falun Gong material knows that this statement has no basis in Falun Gong. In actuality, Falun Gong emphasizes that people have predestined relationships with the Fa, or the law. And in his book, Zhuan Falun, Mr. Li mentions many times that not everyone can obtain the Fa. Nevertheless, these words and the way Wang Jindong is sitting are the basis of the Xinhua news agency's claim that the self-immolators are Falun Gong practitioners. There are no other corroborating facts. Indeed, the way Wang is sitting is not characteristic of Falun Gong either. Falun Gong requires practitioners to sit with both legs crossed while meditating. The position is called the full lotus position. Beginners are allowed to sit in half lotus position with just one leg crossed over the other until they develop the flexibility to sit in the full lotus. As we can see in the video, the man Xinhua claims to be a Falun Gong practitioner is not even sitting with one leg crossed. The media reported that Wang Jindong had been practicing Falun Gong since 1996. For someone who had practiced for so many years, isn't it strange that he is unable to sit in the full lotus position? Wang also fails to correctly form the very basic hand position called Zhi, which is the first position in all Falun Gong exercises. All Falun Gong practitioners learn to form the Zhi position correctly by slightly touching the tips of both thumbs together. We can see that Wang overlaps his thumbs in a completely incorrect manner. Many people have noticed that the way Wang Jindong sits is exactly like a Chinese soldier. Some suspect that the man who set himself on fire was a spy hired by the police to put on this show. When we compare this man to a photo provided by the government, which shows Wong prior to the self-immolation, we can see that the scalp line of the self-immolator is very neat all the way across the top of his forehead. We can't see his hairline. It even looks like he might be wearing a wig or a mask. It is common knowledge that human hair burns very easily and quickly. It was reported that Wong Jindong was seriously burned, yet we can see that his hair remains untouched and forms a clear-cut line above his forehead. Wouldn't his hair be one of the first things to burn? How can it be so neat after he was engulfed by flames? And oddly enough, he stays seated while on fire. Footage of burning victims shows that they experience intense pain, and they usually do not remain in one position. Could Wong Jindong be wearing fireproof clothing? He looks bundled up, as if he's wearing layers of extra clothes. Even the ears of the Wong Jindong in the CCTV film don't match those of the man in the photograph. Look at the photo of Wong. The ear is close to the head and the shape of the ear is long, whereas the self-immolator's ear is small and round. Was the man who set himself on fire the real Wong Jindong? Notice the plastic Sprite bottle between the man's legs. It looks brand new, as if the flames never touched it. Government officials claim that Wong Jindong drank gasoline from the Sprite bottle before he set himself on fire, and that he was very seriously burned. How is it possible that a plastic bottle filled with gasoline, encompassed by a burning man's legs, remains in perfect condition?